Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for the Q&A, so let's go ahead and get this started. All right, first question. Hey Jason, what do you think about push-pull 3 times a week? For example, Monday push, Wednesday pull, Friday push, on the next Monday starting with pull. This style of training will allow some weeks to be 2 times frequency and other 1 times frequency. Can a lifter get sufficient rest and recovery on this type of program? Also, is the frequency enough for strength gains? Is it enough for strength gains? Any frequency is enough for strength gains. Look, if you go to the gym, if you don't already have a really big strength base built, if you're fairly new to lifting and you go to the gym and you do one heavy set of squat, bench, and deadlift on Monday and you don't train again until the next Monday, and you do that every week, you can gain strength. All right, that's a point that needs to be made clear. The more advanced you get, obviously you're going to need more frequency and more volume, but it's all relative. I mean, yes, you can gain strength and even muscle training once a week. It's not even going to be close to ideal. So we kind of come back to the other point. You're training on a 3-day-a-week, essentially, movement pattern split. So back to the other point, is it sufficient rest and recovery? Yeah, probably. What you need to be worried about is it going to be enough volume and frequency to maximize your gains or your growth. Now, if you're not concerned with maximizing gains or growth, then it's not really a big deal as long as you're happy with any results. But the point we come to is something like this. Why do we split training up? Why would we go to a push-pull? Because we want more training frequency and more total volume per week, right? If you're only going to train 3 days a week, quite frankly, I would say just do full body. Now, if you personally, for whatever reason, feel the need to split it up like this, don't think of it in terms of just push-pull. You can have a push-focused day. Like you could focus more on the bench, the press, squats, or whatever on your push days. And you could focus more on the deadlifts and maybe some power cleans and rows and pull-ups on your pull days, right? But I wouldn't be overly dogmatic about it. I would recommend that you get dogmatic about it, especially at such a low frequency. Maybe you could do some curls on your push day. But the whole point here is that, in all honesty, if you're only going to train 3 days a week, you should probably be full body. Now, a push-pull can still be full body, right? It can still be full body, depending upon your exercise selection. But the question I would ask is, what is it that you think that you're going to get out of this that's going to be equal to or superior to doing a normal full body 3-day-a-week? And that's the question we need to ask ourselves. When we start doing things like this, we really should be asking ourselves, is this going to give me an advantage over a proven effective method? Is this really going to help me? Or am I doing it just to do it because I feel like it? And the question you need to ask yourself at that point too is, if you don't have a logical reason other than you feel like it, we need to be asking ourselves, what's more important to us, doing what we feel like or getting the results that we want, right? That's a very serious question we need to always ask ourselves with training. It's one of the most important questions we need to ask ourselves with our training. Are you doing this just because you want to feel good about doing it, or because you actually think it'll give you results, or do you care more about feeling good about what you're doing than your actual results? It's also the difference between exercise and training addresses that question, doesn't it? All right, next question. Your thoughts on doing Wendler 531 after reaching your lifetime PR goals. When you say to yourself, I want to maintain what I have and slowly increase strength on big exercises over the years. I think 531 is probably fine for that. Like you're happy with your overall strength and you just want a basic program like that, that you can maintain strength and maybe make some increases over time. Yeah, I think you can do that. I mean, guys can actually get really, really strong on 531, depending on, number one, your genetics, and two, how you set up the templates. It's like I've always told guys, do maybe the big but boring template, but reversing them as far as doing the press on the bench days and then the bench on the press days, etc. 5-3-1 has its problems, but it's still an effective program. So no, I don't have a problem with that. 5-3-1 can be effective. You just need to be careful how you set it up. And for someone who said, hey, I'm pretty well as strong as I want to be, and you want a maintenance type program, yeah, I think 5-3-1 is more than adequate for that. But you also need to be looking at it saying, hey, can I get stronger on this? And I think you certainly can. I think someone who's gotten to whatever their basic strength goals are could run it and continue to make strength gains and size gains as well. I mean, they're correlated. They go hand in hand. I mean, I've met guys out there who squat 500 and 600 pounds who use 5-3-1. They're definitely out there. There are plenty of really strong guys who run this program. Some would argue that maybe they're genetic freaks, but I don't know that that's always the case. Like I said, it's a good program. I might have some problems occasionally with the way that it's set up. I might think the deloading is absurdly too frequent, especially given the total training volumes involved. But it's a proven program. It does work, and it's still a good program. You know what I mean? Even if I say, hey, there's problems with the program and it's not perfect, it's still a good program. There's still champions using it. I mean, it works, right? So why wouldn't you be able to maintain strength and maybe make some slow increases on a proven strength program, right? You got to look at it from that perspective. So yeah, go ahead. I've said before, I think 5-3-1 is a decent program. It's not a bad program. It's just things I personally don't necessarily like about it. But you know what? At the end of the day, it does work. All right, next question. Hey coach, Martin Berkhan has a protocol to assist in increasing a calorie deficit by drinking coffee supplementing caffeine, equivalent of consuming 200 milligrams of caffeine every 2 hours upon waking up to 6 times to burn up to roughly 300 extra calories a day. Any thoughts on the effectiveness of this? I mean, you could drink tons of coffee. I mean, I have a pretty high energy turnover, and, you know, I have a high metabolism. A lot of people say, well, why do you always get fat? Because I have an insane appetite. I have an insane appetite. I have no problems eating 5,000 calories a day. I can bulk and do hours of cardio every day and train 6 days a week and still bulk. I have no trouble eating enough food to gain weight doing that. But I do have a high energy turnover. Maybe it's because I drink tons of coffee all day. I mean, I don't know about the 300 extra calories. I guess that's my question with this. Is it possible? Maybe. I'd need to see Martin's literature cited, because 300 calories is a lot. I mean, I think I saw some data showing that clenbuterol only increases metabolism like 6 or 7, maybe 8%. And that's one of the most effective fat burners out there. So we're talking about 300. You're talking about, for a lot of people, like a 10% boost in caloric burn from caffeine. I don't know. Maybe. I'd like to see his sources. I'd like to see the sources cited behind that. I know it boosts metabolism. It does boost energy turnover. Absolutely. I'm not going to deny that. I think there's evidence of that. I don't know about the exact numbers. And I don't know that I would be supplementing caffeine pills all day. I don't know that I could really get behind that. I think we're getting pretty extreme at that point. All right, next question. Hey, Jason, I see a lot of lifters using box squats. What is their purpose? Do they work, or are they a waste of time? When should I add them in? No, box squats can be useful. I've done plenty of box squats in the past. That's such a nuanced question. I think if you're going to be an equipped lifter, you need to be doing box squats from day one. If you're going to be a raw squatter, I think they're an optional exercise. You can certainly build a squat with them, but the main purpose of a box squat is breaking up the eccentric concentric chain. In other words, you're completely removing the normal way a stretch reflex works. And I think it's very effective for speed work. I think they can be effective for teaching you to get more explosive out of the bottom in a way similar to a pause squat. But I think for a lot of raw lifters, the pause squat itself, assuming they don't hurt your lower back, you don't have pelvic tilt issues and things on them, have just as good of an effect there, if not better, for a raw lifter, because you are changing the bar path. I think they're very effective for dynamic effort work. All right, because again, you're breaking up the eccentric concentric chain, then exploding and then going against bands. And it's really hard to do speed work with normal squats. I think they do a good job of that for people who want to do some dynamic effort style training, even as raw lifters, which you don't need as a novice. I think for sumo deadlifters, I think they're a fantastic assistance movement, right? Particularly if you use a wide stance like you do on a sumo. I think they're a fantastic assistance movement that doesn't bury you as much as the sumo deadlift does out of the bottom. It's not as bad in terms of axial loading. And it's a very similar movement pattern. And again, you're breaking up the eccentric concentric chain. You're having to squat from the dead stop. So in certain ways, it does replicate the movement pattern for your sumo deadlift. So I'm going to say if you're a sumo deadlifter, the box squat, particularly the wider stance box squat, is actually a really good assistance movement if you have certain weaknesses on the sumo deadlift. So really, it's like we have to ask the question of what specifically are you using it for? The box squat is an assistance movement. So the question becomes, what specifically are you needing to assist? What weak point are you addressing with it? That's when you need to use it. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 2.